Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Eskridge. I'm a 3D render artist, and today I'm going to be demonstrating Look at My Hair. It's a plugin for Daz Studio that allows you to add hair to people's heads and fur on animal coats. And I'm going to be using it to add fur to a large cat. I'm going to be doing a cheetah. Now the large cat model that I use has a preset that you could get that puts the hair on instantly, but I'm going to be doing it manually just so I can demonstrate a few things. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start here in Daz Studio. Daz Studio is a free piece of software. You do have to pay for all the characters that you might want to have in it, though, but its purpose is for reposing rigged models. A rigged model is basically it's a three-dimensional model, but it has an underlying skeleton that allows you to bend arms at the joints and joints along the spine and such. So I'm going to pick the Millennium Big Cat here. It's a kind of a standardized big cat model that you can get from Daz 3D. I'll turn off the limits here. Now we're going to do a cheetah, so I'm going to go into its parameters, and among the parameters is what are called morphs. These change the shape of the underlying geometry to match some transformation. In this case, we're going to set cheetah up to 1. That's going to give it a body a little bit more like a cheetah. Let's turn like this. Now, in Daz Studio, you use various controls to do various poses and such. Probably not such a great one there, but moving at joints, it can do some kind of strange things with it. But ahead of time, I actually set the pose that I wanted and saved it. So I'm going to go find that and load it. Go down here to a little further over. Pose, animals. Daz Milk Big Cat. Okay, here it is. Cheetah run. Okay, so we got this sort of exciting pose of cheetah running, kind of making banking to the right. And then I'm going to give it a texture that makes it look like a cheetah. That's going to be your cheetah textures. And make sure you have blue eyes. Okay, and for now that's actually all I'm going to do. I'll add the fur later. The fur is pretty intensive on the system, and I really just want to get him positioned in the scene to start with. So let's save that. Cheetah. And then we're going to export it. First, create a project folder for it. This is where we'll save all the files that really we're going to use with this. .obj, and we'll export it. Alright, so now we're going to fire up View, and this is what I'm going to use to build the African Savannah that this cheetah is going to be running in. I'm going to start by creating some landscape. That's good enough right there, actually. I'm going to keep this sphere now for as a reference point. And drop it onto the ground. That's going to be about where we put this cheetah. A little further over this way. And just having this here sometimes is it's sort of an easy marker for me to build things around. Alright, so let's set the scene up a little bit better real quick. Soften the sun. Give it a more golden light. I think that's a little too bright, too yellow. Alright. We'll lighten the sun's shadows a bit. I think I'm going to move it while I'm here over to this side. I'm going to change the light to global radiosity, which is kind of the highest quality lighting, but I'm going to reduce this to save me some render time. Put the light balance a bit more towards favoring the sunlight. gray the sky down a little. Set the aerial perspective up. We'll just leave it at 10 for now. I'll add clouds later. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Kind of sort of a evening type coloration of the sun. And the sun here just a little bit. And I can use the sphere to see basically where the sun is striking my subject. And while I'm here, I think I'll create a shadow light. And this will be a light that kind of acts as sort of the reflected shadow color, which will be sort of a dark bluish green. Let's gray that a little bit, lighten it up and gray it down a little bit more. It wants to be almost gray, but not quite. And there. Now if I do a quick render, you can see how it kind of affects the sphere. So we've got kind of a lot of dynamic lighting in here. We got this major light coming, this strong sunlight coming from here, and the shadow side coming this way. Let's work on that light just a little bit, soften it up, turn off its shadows. I think I'm going to move the sun again just a little bit more this way. There, I like that enough for now. So let's give this terrain a texture. I'm just going to pick sand. So I want a nice sandy ground. It's coming in a little dark, so I'll lighten that up just a bit. And make it a little bit more yellow too. Alright, that'll work. Okay, so now I'm going to add some rocks to this. I want it to be kind of a rocky soil. And for that I'm going to use an ecosystem. Add rocks. I don't want any color variation. It's going to take a few minutes to generate the rocks. Okay, there they go. These rocks are going to be pretty small. 0.025. Density is going to be very low, just 1%. And I'm going to actually put them about 10 centimeters below the surface. This will make the rocks look like they're kind of in the ground rather than sitting on top of it. The color's good. Presence scaling. Density. Let's do this. Let's actually I'm not going to bother with that for now. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to do a quick preview render. Alright, I think I like that. Let's add some grass now. And for that I'm just going to add another ecosystem. And a plant. And grass 6 in this case. Increase the scale of 1. Density. I'm going to give this what's called a variable density. This will make it a bit more clumpy. Set this up to about 75. Setting this perpendicular will make the grass follow the contour of the land a little bit better. This will increase the variation in the various instances of the grass. I'm going to yellow this grass a bit. I want it to look kind of like a dry grass on the plains. And let's see how that looks. Okay, it looks kind of like a mess here, but a bit better in the preview. Let's do a quick preview render of that. I think I want the grass to be a little darker. So let's darken this color a little bit more gray and yellow. Let's see how that looks. Alright, I like that there. Okay, so I'm going to add some hills in the distance. Smooth it out a little. Make it a good deal bigger. And I'm just going to copy the terrain, the material from one and paste it to the other. I'm not going to populate it right now because it'll take a long time, but we'll do it before we do our final render. Let's move it to where it's a little more obvious. And we'll do one more terrain in the background. Some distant mountains. I wouldn't say mountains, but let's say steeper hills. And I'll just cheat on this texture and use a quick simple one. Dry grass. Let's flatten that out some. A little too rough. Okay, I think I want to add a tree. So we'll do a something that looks like it's at home in the African savannah. We do the umbrella acacia. And make it pretty big. And we'll put it way over to the side here because our cheetah is going to be here. We'll balance them out with a tree in the composition. And that looks good right there. While I'm thinking about it, I want to change the aspect ratio to widescreen. This gets me back closer to that golden ratio of 1 to 1.618. It's kind of a nice aspect ratio. But now my tree's cut off by the frame a little bit too much. That'll do right there. Alright, so now I'm going to save this. Call it Cheetah scene. Yeah, I guess I should do it in the file name. Alright, so that's saved. Now in order to make things work a little more smoothly and not use up too much of my computer's memory, I'm going to start to hide some of this stuff that, particularly the foreground terrain, that requires a lot of the computer's memory for the display. And I'll just hide it and go back to the sphere. Now that I have the sphere here and I know where it is, I can place our cheetah. So we'll load him up. Projects, cheetah, cheetah.obj. And I can put him using that sphere again as a reference. I can place the cheetah. He's obviously way too small, so we'll make him bigger. There he is. And I want to be pretty big because he is the star of this scene. Let's get that exciting angle back. That's a little too big. Right there. Oh, that's perfect. So let's get rid of the sphere. Now it's just in the way. I think I'm going to make him a little smaller. And I want him to kick some dirt up over here. So we'll create some real quick. And the way you do this, do like a spray of dirt. Just create a terrain, flatten it out. Under the effects, you add some pebbles. Make it pretty rough. out just a little bit. And I'm going to now pick up a paintbrush. It's the raised brush, but I'm going to invert it. And I'm going to kind of smooth it out where there shouldn't be pebbles, and I'm going to sort of create sort of an arching shape. Get pretty tight down here on one side and kind of so here it's going to look kind of like gravel getting thrown up in this direction. We'll thin it out up here some because it's going to be, of course, more dense where the cheetah's foot's striking the ground. Undo that. Okay. And then I just raise the altitude here just a little bit. And now I got some gravel being flung into the air. Thin out a few spots more, especially up here. Sometimes you gotta put the ground back on for it to work. Alright, so we'll work with that. Now, of course, it's way too big. So we'll shrink it down. And it's also going the wrong way. So I'll spin it. Make it a little bit more the appropriate size. It's a bit bigger. I want it coming off of his back foot. It's about there. And we'll give that sandy terrain texture that we gave the ground. Sand. Alright, so we'll do a quick preview render, see what this all looks like. I think I want that spray to be a little bit lower towards the ground. And actually, I think I'll duplicate it. So it'll be extra dense the closer it gets to the ground. And now let's do a preview render. So now it looks like he's throwing up some dirt as he's doing this bank. Looks a little like it's too much in front of him though. So we'll move those. There's the problem right there. It actually is in front of him. I want it coming off his back foot. Let's just do something like that. Looks like he struck the ground and his foot's gone up. Maybe we'll one more duplication. See what it looks like for the other foot. It's probably too much. We'll see. Can always delete it. I think I like that. Alright, one more thing. Actually, I'll add clouds in, but I'll do that later. First, let's handle the fur. So let's save this. And then shut down view. Alright, so now I'm going to go back into Daz Studio. And load that Cheetah file I'd saved earlier. Alright, let's position them about the same way we see them in the view scene. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. And now, to do fur, I'm going to use a tool called Look at My Hair. It's you can get it from daz3d.com. It costs about $50, but you might be able to find it on sale for around $35. Import the cheetah into this. Alright, now the way this works is you have to highlight the polygons that you want to grow hair out of. And each set of polygons that you do is going to be you can do multiple sets called shade groups. So I like to do, I start with the head. And zoom in quite a bit, and you can just start picking them out here. Now I could just try to do everything, but then I'm still going to get hair on his eyeballs and on his nose and his lips. Even his whiskers will start growing their own hair, so I don't want to do that. So I'll clear that. And I could also select just the skin, which does, you know, all of the cat's skin. But if you look, when I actually grow the hairs, give it a moment here to grow them. No, that's a mess. It's too big to see anything. Let's go smaller. Just one. Cheetah's a short-haired cat, so do short hair. You see here all these hairs that are sticking into his eye. Well, that's from the folds of his around his eyelid and such. And I could go in and try to just unhighlight those. Do that with the right key. Excuse me. And now try to do some hairs. But you see, there's still a few I missed, and that's because they're polygons that are kind of hard to get to. So what I wound up doing, let's clear them all, is just manually selecting areas. Too close to his eye. There we go. Now if I do select something I kind of didn't want to get, let's say I catch these whiskers. A little too far away. Let's get closer. Now it may not be easy to see on the video, but I've actually highlighted some of the polygons in his whiskers. Oh, there you go. You can probably see those. You can always go in and select and then deselect, and that'll clear any selection I had on those whiskers. Now, once I select all of the polygons that I want, I'm going to go in here, give it a name, something like head, and the defaults are a little the hairs aren't quite fine enough, so I like to set the root thickness down a bit, and the tip thickness as well. Not quite as much of a reduction, and then I can save that. Take a moment to realize what it needs to do. Alright, and then I can go about creating other shade groups. So I could start doing one for probably responding like I want it to. There we go. I can start doing one for the body. And then I'll go up and save this and call it body. I'm not going to include selecting all these groups in the video. It'll take too long. So with the magic of editing, we'll jump ahead a little. Okay, so now I've selected all the groups that I want. So I have the head and the ears. I did the ears separately because the hair is going to flow in a slightly different direction. The chin. Mostly I did this because the chin is really dense because of the way the cat has been changed to look like a cheetah. So I'm going to have it as a separate group to deal with the density of the mesh right there. Front of the body, which is just sort of the cat's front half. The back of the body, which is the back half. And I did this just so I have a little bit more control over the density of the hair again. And long hair, which is, you can't really see too well, is going to be the hair that kind of hangs down from his belly and from under his chin here and from the backs of his legs. So we'll start with the head. Cheetahs have very short hair, so we'll just go for a hair length of 1. Draw that in. So I've actually drawn them all in before. Okay, so this draws in what are called guide hairs. That they kind of show the direction of what the hair is going to be, and the light blue ones are the ones that are currently selected. I'm going to use this spherize command in the Y direction, which is going to make the hairs kind of fold downwards a little bit. You can see they kind of folded down a little. And now I'm just going to do one down. I'm going to do a couple going back. Because he's running, his hair should be laying back against his body. And then do a little bit of just manual styling around the nose. Don't want it sticking up too much there. Okay, now when I hit this button, this is going to give me an idea what the hair actually will look like. You can see it's not quite dense enough. You should just run the density all the way to the top. His hair right around his eye probably needs a little bit of styling to get it out of the way. I want that eye to be visible. Alright, maybe it's a little too thin right around here. So let's go back into follicles and select down in here just a bit. Okay, so draw it again. That's going to undo our previous movements of the hair. Let's turn this off, speed things up. So we'll go Y direction 1 and a couple in the Z. And then we had that styling manual combing I did above his nose. Alright, so now let's see how that looks. I think I want to go back one more. Okay, a couple more. And push the density all the way up. So I'll move to the ears. Same thing. Hair length of 1. In this case, though, I'm actually going to just go up. And we'll go up a couple of times, which is more like the way the hair would be on the back of the ears of an actual cat. And we don't need to be quite so have it so dense on this. So I'll just push it up a little. And we'll do something similar for the chin. I think maybe I'll go just a little bit longer with the hair. Once in the Y direction. We're going to go once backwards in the Z direction. Not as much. I want him to have a bit of a scraggly beard. Maybe we'll do it a couple times. But then I can pull a little bit of scruff down. Alright. We'll fill that in. Raise the density. You don't have to go too much. It was already a pretty dense set of polygons. Front of his body. Go back to a length of 1. And use the spherize command to move that hair around. Definitely jack the density all the way up on this. Same thing for the back of the body. Now it's getting a little tough to respond. Again, I'm running pretty low on memory. Okay, now I have one more set of hair, and that's the sort of tufts that sort of stick out at the various locations. And so I'm going to make this one quite a bit longer. Go up to 5. And I'm just going to make them go back because this cheetah's running. One more. Give it a bit of frizz. I've already had some on there before, but I didn't like it. Set down a lot lower. I guess I gotta do it after I show the previews. Alright, let's raise the density of that. I'm going to zoom in, make sure that looks okay up close. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I have fur all over our cheetah. Actually, you notice on this side I don't have that much. It saves me some polygons, sometimes some render time. I only do the side that's going to be visible to the camera. So we will export this back to Daz Studio. Now I have to go through and change, since we're loading this in view, the export to OBJ files for each of the hair types. You'll notice the hair quantity, the default is 10,000, but I've set it up for most of the areas to be a lot higher. Ears can still be 10,000, but they do got to be OBJ. Chin's okay where that's at. Front of the body needs, I've set this up to 200,000 because there's a lot of area for it to cover. Also needs to be OBJ. Same with the back side of the body. And the long hair, 10,000, probably not enough. Let's do 30,000. 30,000. Find the right key and make sure that's OBJ. Go back through them all, make sure I changed them all to OBJ. The next step is going to be very CPU intensive, and it's going to take a long time, so I'm going to stop the video and then start it back up when it's done. So here we go, set it to export. Alright, so our hair has been exported back into Daz Studio. You can see some like tufts coming off the back of his legs here, and it looks kind of textured here, but this is really just a preview. I'm going to export this now. And I'm just going to overwrite the OBJ we'd saved before for the cheetah without the hair. It's important to save it over the same file because Vue is going to try to re-import the same file and place it in the same location that we originally had the cheetah placed. Because he's awfully hard to move around once he has fur on when he's in Vue. So there's a bit of a bug in Look at My Hair. I'm going to show you how to fix that. When you export that fur as an OBJ file, at least in a Windows environment, it messes up some paths and some file locations. So I'm going to go up here under My Documents, Daz Studio, Look at My Hair, and Geometry. And the files that are important here are these JPEG files. These are the textures of the colors of the hair. And I'm just going to copy these. And then I'm going to go to my project folder, and there's this maps subfolder that was created by the export. I'm going to paste those JPEGs in here. Now go back to the project folder, and you can see the OBJ file that was exported from Daz Studio. And it's a big one. It's 2 gigabytes, and that's what all that hair adds to that file. But then the file that I want you to look at is this cheetah.mtl, which is the material file. Now I'm going to bring it up in an editor I have. This is just a text editor. It's Notepad++. It's an open source text editor. I use it for my software engineering a lot. And it defines all the JPEGs that are used to texture the cheetah. Now I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and you can see here you got the ones for the hair, and they've got the slash going the wrong way. And since we moved the file to just the map subdirectory, we can just delete that whole section. And you got to do it for each one. save it. We can get off of that. And we can go back into our view scene. And now view is automatically offering to reload the OBJ file. I'm just going to say yes. And now I don't have to worry about repositioning the cheetah with the hair. It takes up a lot of memory. It's really hard to do. And it is going to take a while to import, probably 20 or 30 minutes. So we'll take a break and come back when that's done. Okay, so the cheetah's been imported. I did some things behind the scenes just to speed this up because my resources were too low to do a video at the same time. Up here I've set this to show wireframe box only, so you see pretty much nothing out here. And then I also put the cheetah in its own layer, which I hid. This is just to speed things up a little bit. Before we do a final render, there's a couple of things we have to do. The fur comes in with a funny highlight on it. So you have to go in here and turn the highlights down. And you got to do this for each of the materials for the fur. So it won't be all, you know, shiny looking on him. Alright, with that done, just go back up to here. So the preview render there. Looks about the same. We need to add some clouds to this scene. So we'll go here, add, just going to add some small cumulus. Let's see how that looks real quick. That looks pretty good. I think I want to smooth those out just a bit. Don't like them being too sharp. I'll jack the detail up. Leave the coverage about the same. I just wanted just an indication of some clouds in the background. Okay. Anything else I need to do? I don't think so. So I'm going to set this to do its final render. We'll render to screen. We'll set this large enough to make a pretty good sized print off of. Not too gigantic. It'll be rendering forever with all that fur. About 15 megapixels or so. Be a pretty good sized print. Okay, and we'll start it rendering. And probably take 24 hours, maybe 2 days, we'll see. Hard to tell. Anyway, I'll stop the video for now and come back when it's done. Okay, so the render is done. It took a couple of days. Now if you remember, I actually save 2 files normally, the actual render, then the depth map. So I'm going to use the depth map real quick to create some layers in the image. Now I'm going to do this using colors, threshold, and just get some straight black and white cuts of where things are separated. And we'll do one here. I'm just going to select everything, copy, go over to the other image and paste it. That creates a new layer here. This will solidify the layer. On this layer, I select everything as black, delete it. The selection stays, but now I'm selecting from the layer underneath. So I will copy and paste, and this creates a new layer. So now I have a layer without the sky showing. And I'll do this a couple more times. Just a couple of undos will bring me back to the grayscale image. And I can just do a few more creating of these masks. Colors, threshold. And usually I map them along, if you look at the histogram here, to where there's valleys, you know, parts that are 0 between areas of depth. Okay. Select all, copy, paste, paste, and there it goes. And then select the blacks, copy and paste again, and solidify that layer. So now I have the sky disappears, and now the background mountain disappears. Might do it again because I noticed some of the mountains not disappearing right there. So let's get rid of that layer, just delete it. Go back over here and a couple undos. Colors, threshold. So that didn't quite work. Let's try that. Select all, copy, paste on the other image. Solidify the layer. Select the black. Delete that layer. Copy, paste, and solidify. Okay, that looks better right there. So now that mountain disappears in the background. Do one more. Just anywhere in here is going to be fine, I think. Now, you notice there's one little issue here, that this new layer doesn't go all the way to the top. And the way to fix that is you just create another empty transparent layer and merge it down, and now it covers the entire height of the image. Sometimes you get that if the black mask that you copied doesn't go all the way to the top. For the other couple of times we did it, this tree took us all the way up, but when it wasn't there, we had that the new layer only cut off at the top of the cheetah's tail. So with that, I'm going to add some depth to some of these layers. Maybe make that mountain disappear a little bit in the background. So just create a new layer. And let's drag that down to here. This is the older versions, you could just drag and drop these things. In this newest version of GIMP, you got to use these arrows down here at the bottom. I'm just going to select white for now for this. Soft brush, reasonable size. Sort of do some fog along the horizon here. And just take a blur brush and blur it a little bit. And then make this layer not quite so. Oh, wait. Gotta be careful sometimes. The edges might not be visible. And lower, make that a bit of a transparent layer. We'll put it down at 40%. Let's try that again. There we go. Just sort of a hint right there that there's some steam, dust, mist, something coming up off the ground. I'm going to do the same thing between the other layers. Now it's going to be right here. I don't want to spend too much time doing this since this is a video. Don't want to have everybody get bored and fall asleep watching this. And one more. That's right, you gotta do it this way. And that one was just this little area right about here. Maybe not quite as transparent. We'll just set this one down to 50. Alright, so let's look here what I got. I think I'm going to go back into Nah, I'm not gonna bother. So if you remember, I created some dirt. He's kicking up as he's running. We'll add a little bit of um, sort of just fog, dust, something to that effect. I'm just going to pick sort of a lighter color I can find down here of the rocks. And that's pretty good right there. Sort of a yellowish. I'm going to add a layer. And this one's on top. And I just scribble in some foggy type stuff. Like I said, this is the dirt he's kicking up as he's running. And I'll take my smudge brush. Get some form. The wind's going to be kind of carrying it this way, so I kind of stretch it out to the right. Don't want it to be cover up too much of this dirt we have getting flung up. And of course I don't want it to be too obvious either, so let's lower the transparency, or lower the opacity. About 50% is fine. Actually, yeah, maybe a bit higher. 61. That's good there. It just gives it an indication that there's some finer particles kicked up in the air by his running. Alright, now he's a running cheetah. Doesn't look very intense. So I'm going to go in here, make his eye close just a little bit. And now we'll see some of that fur that I did in that look at my hair plug-in when we zoom in. Now you can see, look, kind of a pretty nice coat here. A little bit of a problem right there where I didn't put some fur on that side. Let's fix that while I'm looking at it. Go to a rough bristle brush. Not nearly that big. Let's try a 30. There we go. It's on blur. Or on smudge, should I say. Set this up to around 75-ish. Make sure I'm on the right layer. How far does this go down? Up there. Let's make that transition from his jawline to that chin hair a little more gradual. Pull out a few tufts here where the fur didn't come out quite as much as I'd like. Just fixing a few spots here and there that a closer examination I don't really care for. Although all in all I think it came out really nicely looking. Yeah, I don't like that one. I like the way this tuft came out back here. Right there, I want a lot more hair coming up. If he's running, his hair would be standing on end as he's chasing some sort of small animal or something. Okay, now this is where he doesn't look very intense on his face, and I probably should have fixed that in Daz Studio, given him some expression. But I can fix it here just using the clone tool and a sort of a bay soft brush. And just from up here, I'm going to hold down the control key and click, and that's going to set the template for this. I can come in here and kind of make that eye a little more squinty. And the same with this side. Just bring it up a little. Just a quick way to give him a somewhat more intense look. Okay, I like that, a little bit dark there. I see some, let's go back to that bristle brush. Right here, I don't like the way this looks. I'll just kind of blur it a little bit. A few hairs standing up here and there. Fix this here too, where the hairs transition from the jaw to the neck. Give him a little bit of a beard. Okay, that's a little harsh right there, where I could just pull some hairs down here. I'm not really pulling. Oh, there we go. I don't like that though. I think let's see if we can try trimming it a little. Before I do that though, flatten all the layers. Okay. I'm going to go back into the clone tool, and I want a hard edge brush for this. And just somewhere out here, I'm going to pick an area. I can use this to kind of trim, make that hair a little bit more gradual. And then I can go back in and fix that hair just a little bit. Back leg's not hairy enough. A few accents here and there. Alright, so let's zoom all the way out, or as far out as we can go. That looks really good. I like that. Just do a little bit of color correction. Let's see. Start with the levels. You can see here the contrast doesn't go end to end. You can see kind of the bright ends up here and the dark ends down here. So I'm just going to give us a fuller contrast, adjusting the histogram a little bit. And sometimes I play with the medium tones. I think I like that right about there. Go in here, do some color balance corrections. I like my colors to go a little bit to the warm side, so yellow's a little bit harsh there. So I tend to add some reds and yellows in. Sometimes I experiment just to see, oh, I kind of like the way that one worked. So add some magenta into the shadows there. Yeah, experiment just to see what adjusting the colors this way and that does. I definitely like the red there. Not so much the green though. Again, the magenta seems to add a bit to this one, but I don't want to overdo it. Yellow. I don't think I like the yellow in the midtones. Let's see what about some blue. Maybe a little bit of blue. Highlights I usually start out just seeing what adding a bit of orange in does. Definitely don't need magenta there. Okay, so now you can see what kind of a difference the color correction makes. Like I said, I like that warmer kind of reddish hue. And I think actually with that, I'm going to call this one done. I'll add my signature and upload this to my print shop. And if you're interested, you can always check out my prints at DanielEskridge.com. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time.